Hey students, this is Dr. Horn. Today is Monday, September something. Hold on, I gotta look it up. September the 12th, 2016. And here are your announcements. I don't have anything to announce other than do well in your classes and get all your work in this week. We have a due date on Friday. I had in my ACT class had perfect attendance last week, so I'm real excited about that. Way to go, kids. Way to go. Way to do what you're supposed to do. That's awesome. I want to talk a little bit about 9/11 because that was yesterday, and it is now 15 years that have passed since 9/11 first happened. And the reason I want to talk to you about it is because the world is an entirely different place after that happened than it was before. And there's no way for you to know that. There's no way for you to feel that. There's no way for you to recognize that, even for adults, unless you're just really paying attention. Then I don't know that you would know that. Now you see I'm in front of a thing. I want to see what happens when I do this. That's likely to look weird. And we'll see. I'm doing a green screen for my announcements every now and then, just for fun. And we'll see what happens when I just drink a green drink. So let's talk about 9/11. So on September 11th, 2001, as you know, terrorists from Al-Qaeda hijacked 2 airplanes and crashed them into the World Trade Center in New York, collapsing both buildings. And so how's the world different now than it was before? And I don't want to get into any politics or things, even though it's almost impossible to avoid them. So just know that I am not rendering judgment, that I'm just kind of giving you what things feel different for me personally. And I'm not smart enough to have known what to do or not to do. Okay, so when 9/11 happened, I was in graduate school. I was getting my master's degree, which tells me I was getting my master's degree 15 years ago, which is wow. And I was going to Dr. Melendez's class. It was a reading class, and I have never been a person who listens to the radio. I'm a person who listens to my own music generally. And I remember I was playing, inevitably, I know that I was playing a Radiohead CD, and I can't remember which one, but it was probably either OK Computer or the one that came out before that I could have told you 5 minutes ago what the name of that album is, but I can't tell you right now because I'm nervous, or, I'm on the spot. And so I was listening to that, and I was driving to school. I was trying to get to my reading class. I remember being surprised. I usually parked illegally and got a ticket because I'm an idiot, but I was surprised that there were like so many parking spaces open at school. And so I pulled in and I parked, and I had to walk across the grass up a hill to get to my class because, again, I'm an idiot and I don't use sidewalks. I just go straight. And I don't care if I get my shoes dirty or not because I'm a 3-year-old boy at heart. And so I walked right to the classroom, and nobody's there except for Dr. Melendez. And I'm like, Dr. Melendez, what's going on? And she's like, Jason, something bad's happened. We don't know what it is yet. And I'm thinking, something happened at the university. It wasn't that far after Columbine that wasn't the first thing that crossed your mind when something bad happened. And so we went to the College of Education building, and there was a TV and a common room there, and we watched, the second plane hit the tower. So then we knew something really bad was happening. And so it felt like America was under attack, and there was a moment of breathlessness where you thought, oh my God, what is going on? What is happening? It's almost like the whole world had changed in that short amount of time. And from there, Dr. Melendez said, just go home, go, somewhere, go be with family, because we were all freaking out. I mean, people were crying, people were really upset. So I went and got back in my car and drove over to my brother's apartment, which was right near ETSU. And I remember one of the things that sticks out in my head so much is that people were so nice in that moment. They were so kind, that they would let you out. You know, they would stop in the middle of the road to let you turn left to get where you were going. Nobody honked at anybody. People waved at each other. I mean, people were so kind in that moment that it, like, even when I think about it now, it was very inspiring how kind people were. And so I went to my brother's apartment and we watched news the entire day. Had friends over, got pizza, but not in a like a celebratory way, but just in a way that, you know, got to eat something. And, you know, we're all in college and we're all like humans, so we love pizza. And so we got pizza and watched the news all day. And it was a very sobering, very reverent time. So what happened afterwards? What was the world like afterwards? Well, afterwards, before then, it took, I don't know, 20 minutes from the time you showed up to the airport to the time you got on an airplane if you were doing a domestic flight. After that, it took about an hour and a half. Like, security was tight. They were double checking, triple checking people for everything. I remember that the federal government took over all of that, and which created the TSA, and my cousin actually works for them, and he got his job when they were doing that round of hirings. They started putting what are called air marshals on airplanes, who are marshals who are disguised like just regular citizens who have special types of weapons and that sort of thing to keep a terrorist attack ever from happening on an airplane. They started closing the cabin. I mean, back in 1990 something, like, you know, you could get little Johnny up under the cabin of the airplane like every now and then. I mean, that wasn't abnormal. But now that thing's sealed shut from the time the plane takes off until the time the plane lands. So, I mean, you know, people talk about the 1950s as being such a kind of an innocent and that sort of time. Well, I mean, like for me, I think back to the 90s as being sort of an innocent and naive sort of time. After that, our country went to war, first in Afghanistan and then in Iraq, which, you know, a lot of people out of patriotism and that sort of thing decided to sign up for the military. And that was something that I hadn't seen a lot of in my lifetime. I mean, I remember the first Gulf War, but I was in, I think, 8th grade when that happened. And so to see like this mass sort of joining of the military was sort of odd to me, because I had a lot of friends that joined and people I went to high school with and that sort of thing. And then there were laws passed that were, you know, different for America. If you look up the Patriot Act, you know, it gave the government a lot of powers that it didn't have before, as far as basically freezing bank accounts. You had things called FISA warrants, where the police could get warrants to search people and monitor them and everything, and it was a closed record. So they didn't have to present the warrant to the person; that it was just approved by a judge, and you know, then that's a little bit different. And then, but at that time, it was really considered unpatriotic to go against that, like to be against any sort of measure that would keep us safe. People would, you know, the criticism for those who would be against it be, well, they're un-American, they're unpatriotic, and that sort of thing. And so there was a brief moment there where the need for security trumped the need for, you might say, freedom, or you might say even critical thinking at some point. If you look back, you know, I think and this is a couple of years later, there was a country band called the Dixie Chicks who they said something to the effect that they're disappointed that the president's from the same state, from Texas, like them, and they basically got rode out of town on a rail. People were very upset with them for having that stance, which, you know, criticizing the president now is just an everyday occurrence. But back then, during that time, it was considered very, very gauche, or very, it was a faux pas. You didn't do it. just for that brief moment in time. I remember that newscasters would all wear American flag lapel pins on their jackets, and if somebody didn't have one on, then it was like, oh, why aren't they wearing their American flag pins? So there was a lot of really interesting things that, you know, if you step back and look at it, you're like, wow, that went on, but it did go on. And it was our response to being attacked as Americans. And not every bit of it was absolutely positive, I would say, in many people's eyes. But at the time, it all felt right, and it all felt good, and it all felt like we were getting retribution. We were being patriotic and standing up for ourselves. But you fast forward 15 years later, and you look at the world through all those little changes, all those small nuances, and all of that, and it's a different world than it was back in 1999, back in the year 2000. And that's really interesting. And unfortunately, you're only able to read about it, and you're only able to think about it. People my age and older, and maybe some people younger, get to kind of feel that difference. You know, we can feel how different it is. And you know, I was particularly well placed to kind of feel it because I was, you know, just coming into adulthood at that time, and it's kind of a weird separator where I feel, okay, there's my innocent sort of childhood, teenage years, and college years, and then here's my adulthood that's kind of sullied and marked and marred by this tragic and terrible incident that happened. So that's all I've got to say about that. Again, I'm not placing judgment on people for how they acted during that time. You know, it was one of those deals where you just didn't know how to act. I'm not placing judgment on legislators for doing what they thought would keep America safe, because, you know, it was one of those things that there was no template or blueprint for what to do or how to act or what to think. And so during that time, you just rely on your instincts and go with that. So, but I just wanted to relay that personal narrative to you, and just in the hopes that I give you somewhat of a deeper understanding of that time and the time since then. And I don't have any announcements, so it's a good time for story time. Y'all take care, and see you tomorrow.